So here we go. Game 9. First of the day. What are we looking for in this game, Conrad? I don't even know what to expect between these two awesome players.
Yeah, I mean, look for the person on the left side, so Ben, to draw a blank on his first rack. But other than that, I think the thing to watch for is just like speed. These two play very fast, and so it'll be interesting to see just how fast they play. Ben tends to make a lot of quick decisions. You know, Dave is kind of like a methodical machine.
There's the blank for the first time.
Wrong seat. Maybe today is to right side today. Maybe right side will get the opening blanks.
Another thing to look for is you're gonna notice on Ben's rack, the tiles are going to be every which direction. Yeah, Muffin with Tentacle points it out there in the chat. You will see Ben's tiles in every possible direction except right side up. So it's going to be, that's just how he likes to play. And yeah, Benji mode, exactly. So, yeah. You know, we'll do our best to make clear what his letters actually are, but don't be afraid if you think one of his W's is actually an M.
Or if his Z is an N or his N is a Z in this case.
Exactly.
Well, it looks like Ben forgot to draw vowels. So unfortunately, with his nice remaining tiles from last rack of R and T, there will not be a bingo coming down. Most likely, Dave will play, I don't know, some sort of bingo atop dram, maybe not giving Ben too much to come back. He had botany spelled out at one point.
Yeah. It's worth noting that you know, Dave has some obscure bingos with this rack, and some of them have an S, like Obentos is being pointed out. It's definitely important to note that you could play Obentos with the drams hook going down, but as Conrad alluded to, we're going to see Dave play. Yeah, we're going to see Dave play something like Boonist, which, again, strange looking word, Boonist, but it is valid, and he's going to play it with overlaps here. The reasoning being the fewer tiles that you expose to a really strong opponent like Benji out in space, the fewer tiles that he will be able to play an 8-letter word with. So this is a nice defensive positioning, and Boonist being a superlative adjective, if you can believe it, it doesn't take any hooks. So,
and it's going to be kind of a boon for Dave, as Ben has absolutely jack to come back with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, this is it's kind of fun. We've been talking about this a bit, that you've been surprised to see, you know, Dave taking more of a defensive approach, that maybe our styles of play have been rubbing off a little bit.
Why would you do this to us, Conrad? Dave was already a fearsome enough player, and now you're teaching him even more gears of how to be a monster over the board.
I know, right? I was starting to teach you online years ago, but yeah.
Well, I'm better than I was at understanding defensive principles. I'm not sure I'll ever go full defense, but I definitely have it as a gear that I can turn to a lesser extent. I feel like in my forays back into NWL, I'm able to sort of turn that on a little bit, but it's definitely not my forte. But for somebody like Dave that's been playing a very, very aggressive offensive style for quite some time, it is a little bit scary to think of him sort of evolving in more of a flexible direction. So we saw Dave a couple times yesterday, a couple of losses on stream, one big win on stream as well from him. But apart from that one very, very unique for him, you know, like a lightning strike, he actually missed a bingo yesterday, which tells you, you know, why we use the name Dr. Bing for him. He's such an automatic finder of those long words. So yes, I will update this.
Yeah, so interesting chat talking about plurals or not. I think what is weirder about Obento even being a word in the first place is that the word, I believe, is just bento. It's adding the O is what makes it is an honorific. So why is it that specifically bento takes the O, and like no other Japanese words do. I think there's a couple other ones that do, but like for the most part, like cha does not take an O in front, for example. So why is obento good? I don't know. But then again, I'm not the English major, so or the Jap. Well, okay, I did study some Japanese in college, so that would be slightly not correct. But why
Yeah, I
is
mean,
Japanese food honorified? Because they place a high value on food because it's amazing. I don't think otaku is an honorific though. It's not taku, right? It's not otaku. I think it's just otaku, but I could be wrong. Otako would be an honorific for octopus.
yeah, isn't otaku has to do with like anime liker or something like that?
I mean, it's like it's a nerd basically.
I see. Got it.
I'm a bit otaku. Ben is definitely otaku.
Oh, we don't have any nerds in the Scrabble community, so that's
no anime nerds even.
Definitely not. Yeah, so all right, there's a suggestion that we've seen in the chat. The classic combination WU, really not ideal to have. We saw WUD be played yesterday, WUD, that's a word you see all the time in Scrabble, and war is another one. These are just words you see often because there are so few words comparatively that have the W and the U together in them. Great words to learn if you're looking to, get some extra oomph in your Scrabble game.
Well, it's looking like Dave has picked up another Bing, so see if Ben can score some points before the impending Bing.
If Ben picks up, he has a really nice play, but actually it's very tricky to see. The ut hook on the board, UT, is one of those classic words that it's a 2-letter word that most people wouldn't think is a word, but once you do, oh, there it is. I was wondering, is he gonna see the utu hook? Mods, we got to get this guy out of here. Hold on. How do I do this from this view?
So yeah, finds Ulzi. Also outduel would have been really cool. What would you have taken, Will? Go for the Z setup or just take the points now?
Man, I didn't even realize that outduel through UT sets the Z up next to a triple letter score. Wow. I did not notice that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, not 100% sure which of those two is better. I didn't notice that. So hold on a second. Let me.
Well, Aerosat is going to come down from Dave, and so it's going to be a big deal for Ben to get a bingo right here if he possibly can. And the answer is his tiles are terrible.
Yeah, I don't think so. All right, hold on. Let me get these scores right. So Aerosat for Dave, and this is really like the tiles coming back around for Dave Wiegand. We saw a couple games from him yesterday where I think Erickson Smith and then Walker Willingham in the first game really had him on the ropes with really good tiles. And certainly this is the tiles shifting back around. If you play enough Scrabble, those bad draws will eventually even out and become good draws in other games. So,
exactly.
Yeah, so we may be seeing that a little bit from Dave, but Ben is not out of it. He will have ample time in this game to potentially come back, but at this point, against a player like Dave Wiegand, Ben's going to need a healthy dose of luck.
Yeah, I would say Dave is just one of the hardest people to come back on again. For if you weren't watching yesterday, Dave and I live we live on the same street literally in Portland, Oregon, and so we have a little club where we play every week. So we play a lot of games, and he's just one of the hardest people to come back against. Once he has a lead, he's so good at just scoring points, and now that he's playing a lot of some more defense too, I've just started not giving up, but oh man.
Yeah, it is a daunting prospect to play against Dave, but frankly, in my experience, I feel like Ben has given me a lot of really difficult games.
Yeah.
When Ben is on his game, he is really can play with basically anybody. But there have been times in Ben's career where he's had some amazing tournaments, and then other tournaments where if things don't go his way, sometimes he can get down on himself. He really is his own biggest enemy. He's such a talented player that I love seeing Ben in top form playing really well. So I'm hoping that we'll see a lot more of him on this broadcast.
Yeah. Well, now he's doing a call out to the speedrunners, having Glod set up on his rack.
Yeah, not sure if we there is actually some overlap as well between some of the speedrunning communities and competitive Scrabble. I feel like every time I meet somebody from speedrunning and explain to them what it is we're doing here with our game, it's always a sympathetic ear. It's always people that sort of get what we're doing. This is not the most speed run friendly content. We have players with 25 minutes on their clock, but we definitely think that Blitz Scrabble online is a great sort of entry point for people who are into speed above all. So.
Yeah, though I would say I think the biggest overlap is the fundamentals of speedrunning, i.e. doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again that may seem absurdly repetitive, really applies across Scrabble, right? Like
certainly with studying words, right? You can turn studying words into a type of speedrunning. And honestly, when I was first starting out
soon.
when I was starting out on Twitch, I felt like that might be the obvious entry point, right? Like because I am very fast at anagramming words, and I have personally turned a lot of my word study into kind of a speed running style game for myself without ever broadcasting it. So I was hopeful that might work, but not yet. But maybe there's a code to crack there where we can make that element of word study more interesting from that perspective. Yeah, nice. Sorry. Was that a conceited quote?
No, it's just giving you some crap. I did see Quizzical was streaming some video gaming this morning. It's I guess former Scrabble player at this point. I don't know. Haven't heard from her in a while. So, but I was like, oh, I recognize this person now.
Yeah, she was streaming Babel Royale too and doing quite well at it. So hopefully we see more of her. So, all right, so here we go. Ben eventually is going to grudgingly just play IO. Again, for the Babel Royale players out there, you're going to recognize this word. For the NWL Scrabble players, you might be saying, well, what is that? That's not a two-letter word, but actually it is valid.
Absolutely a two-letter word.
Yep, nice way to get some of the 4 vowels that Ben had off of his rack. Ben's really hoping for maybe an N here to go with his ing, and just generally he needs a bingo in a hurry if he can get it here.
I mean, the nice thing is this leaves an E open on either side.
True.
Obviously, Dave is most likely to play on the left side, is what Ben would expect. So this does leave him a chance to get some on the far right. Although as we look at his tiles, it does not appear that he managed to do that.
Yeah, the W draw, not what you want to see. No. Basically, in general, anytime you're trailing in a game, if you are a player at Ben's level or Dave's level, you're looking to get that bingo, that home run play. Basically, a bingo is kind of like a home run of Scrabble. And the high-scoring letters in the Scrabble set are at odds with that goal. The low-scoring letters are low scoring because they're in more words, they're in more longer words. So typically you see a W come onto your rack and you need to bingo as soon as possible. That's bad news for you. So every now and then you'll still get a bingo down because these guys know so many words, but that's not the tile Ben was hoping for.
No. So yeah, if you're Dave, you really just play some board control here.
This looks fine. Yeah, this Faye scores well, blocks that one of those 2 E's, and maybe next turn you go get the other one.
Yep. I think fine would have been better, FYNE, but somehow that's not one of the
It's not in the dictionary
I
somehow.
swaps that you can do in Scrabble.
Yeah.
Lots of archaic words that we don't know where you can swap out an I for a Y.
Yeah, this one happens not to be in there, but Dave does pretty well to score 34 points there. You can see he's up by well over 100 here.
Yeah, we'll have to look out for digestif, which actually the other day Dave put an F out in space, and I had digesti as a 14
Wow.
domino mentions aperitif and sans serve.
Yeah, so you literally played a word that was called out there in the chat by 14
Yeah.
Domino. That's nice. Yeah. But did you have the rack of AEIMORT at any point?
I hope not, because it's kind of a terrible rack.
Yeah, it's a shame that if we're gonna see that lightning strike that we saw yesterday of both players having the exact same rack, it's a shame it wasn't even more interesting than that. But I guess we should just be thankful for what we can get as we see Ben play Gout.
Although
here.
in fairness, they did both miss the best plays.
True, the asported hook. That's right. So yeah, I think Ben's play of Goud here, scoring 33 points with those weak tiles, sets up an S hook. He doesn't have one yet, but maybe he will draw one, and he'll need some threats on the board if he draws well. This is a perfectly good play for Ben.
Yeah, the nice spot from Sidewinder in the chat of
very nice
zoogeny or zoogeny, as I would prefer to pronounce it.
That's a great spot. So extending Zoo on the board. And this is the sort of play that I really feel like Dave, this is what, as Conrad said earlier, Dave is really annoying to come back against. And part of the reason why is that he sees plays like this with more regularity than almost anybody. So I would not be surprised to see him find this at all. This is the sort of thing that is his forte. Oh, and I feel like he sees it. Look at that ENY that he's lined up. Oh, possible. Maybe he's going, oh, I'm so sorry, Conrad. Do you see what else I think he sees? Spelled out on the rack, the first 5 tiles.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Conrad, a former victim of dengue. And that looks like a decent play, and Dave may end up playing this. Okay, this is a good play, but it's not the best play here.
Yeah.
So this is like, I mean,
it's like a finding small.
Yeah, I mean, Zoogeny would have scored 13 more points and left ENU instead of NY. So I feel like NY is maybe slightly more flexible than ENU, but nowhere near enough to cover the 13-point gap between the two plays. But again, that's if this is your biggest mistake in a game, you're doing really well. So.
Yeah. The thing here now is now that Dengue has been played, and I assume that Ben will play something like Jailer down to the R and War, the board is now kind of much more open. I wouldn't call it wide open because Dave will play Jaibi over neutralizing more of the board, but at least Ben has some space to work with, if nothing else. Hey, Womble, good morning.
Morning, Wobble. Nice to see you. Thank you to lots of people already in the chat. Thanks for watching, everyone. Our day 2 coverage of Crescent City Cup. This is just the first game of the day, so it's going to be a marathon again today. The stream, there was a break in the middle of about an hour and a half, but overall, when all was said and done, the stream was 9 hours and some change yesterday. So we're going to have to pace ourselves.
Oh, I had another 9 hours in me other than eating dinner. But hey, looks like we're going to do it today.
That's Conrad speaking for himself only there. I'm not sure I could have done too much more. Well, so I feel rested and ready for the day right now. So excited for what we're going to see today between many of these truly some of the best Scrabble players in the country and the world.
Yeah. Well, Quaff, I am way younger than you, so that is why I have all of the energy. To those who don't know, we are not that many years apart. Only
I did say that.
4.
But those 3 are pretty. Those are some big years. Oh, okay. So no Jailer here. It looks like we're gonna see Jural. Oh, I thought we were gonna see Jual here. So I
Yeah, so
wonder.
I think it's a miss.
This is probably a slight inaccuracy from Ben, if I had to guess. I feel like why would you keep IO instead of IR here? The much better bingo
Yeah.
combination. So I
He
think
wants
that's
to add more O's to zoo.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably a slight imprecision on his part. I think if you're going to play in that spot, you should play Joual. And I think I probably prefer Jailer for the reasons that you mentioned earlier, just to get an entire new chunk of the board a little bit more open. And even if Dave does, so Jailer would go down from the top of the board to the R of War, opening a whole bunch more lines. As you said, Dave would then play Jivey for a great score, but at the very least, you would still have a few tiles to play eights through after Jailer.
But so here's the thing: Jailer's only one more point than Jewel.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Jewel is the more careful, logical play here, just because you do the board after Jewel is kind of devoid of scoring opportunities, and it still has some good bingo opportunities. You can see Benji's just drawn an S, and now he is threatening the bingo of toddies. That's going to pluralize Lig there. So Ben has a threat that is available to him here. So maybe playing in that Jural spot was the right move all along. I guess it's also worth noting that with the Ben left IO on his rack, I think with the same draw that he would have made with a leave of IR, which we were saying is slightly a better leave. I don't think there's a bingo there. So Ben is maybe the galaxy brain in effect here for him.
Yeah. Did you know this definition, like the actual definition of, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, but Joual?
No, has somebody queried that in the chat?
No, well, Jesse knows what it is because he's a flight attendant, but it is a non-standard, chiefly urban variety of French Canadian.
Wow.
Like I don't have the language.
Sorry, guys. I'll get my define bot up here in just a moment so that we can do those queries.
But it looks like, yeah, Toddies is coming down after Dave played some defense with Vying.
And, Vying, a totally reasonable play. Yeah, Vying does great against pretty much everything except an S-containing 7-letter word. Maybe you still get hit with a bingo to the E of Olsey, but Ben has closed the gap quite a bit. So it looked like Dave was doing well. He still is in pretty good shape here, it should be mentioned. But the gap is significantly less now after Ben's big J play and bingo.
Yeah. I mean, really, if Ben can come up with a big draw right here, that would obviously be very helpful.
Yeah, this is where he could turn the tide if he gets maybe that second blank.
Yeah.
Okay, he has some interesting stuff, but certainly not the best draw he could have made here.
Yeah, I mean, if he sees the A hook for Lods, that would definitely be a nice way to score points, keep a good leave. Like Cage, that's pretty solid leaving ECK.
That's very nice.
The K, that's but pointed out in the chat that Dave could play Doti, which while a terrible leave does score a ton of points.
There it is.
I suspect he'll probably do it.
Yep, too many points there for Dave. 39 points with that play, even leaving LNN. LN gets a little bit of flack at the sort of expert level in Scrabble for being a combination of two 1-point tiles that don't really mesh very well together. They're not terribly toxic, but they do not compare well. LN does not compare well to things like LR, RN, RT, things like that. So LNN is even worse with the duplicated tile. Oh, look at this. Okay, so like GAC is the play. That looks decent. Maybe the Alod's hook would have been a little better, as Conrad alluded to. Do we think? I think
so, because the K is just so powerful, right? There's good K spots. Kutu, if nothing else, later on.
For sure, that's the first thing I saw. So that Utu hook on the right side of the board, you can put a K at the top of that. So if there was a way for Ben to keep his K which there surely was, he could have played Cage or something. Maybe he could have played like Eke or something like that on top of there with claws too. So a few options there. Gak is certainly competitive with all of those. It scores quite well, but there were probably slight improvements again for Ben to make there.
Yeah, and mostly a positional thing, right? Like he is still losing. After this, he's down, 25 or so.
Right. So you really do need to continue to safeguard your chances of scoring really well on subsequent turns. Like it's totally not impossible from Ben's perspective that if he just continues to score in the mid 30s to 40s every turn from here on out, he could overtake Dave on the scoreboard. But you have to really maximize your odds of having that nice play on your next turn. And to Conrad's point, keeping the K here was probably key to achieve that goal.
Yeah, and you'll note Ben played very fast.
Yeah,
he spent very much time looking.
Yeah, Crafty J said it earlier that maybe he spent a little too much time earlier on the IO turn when he played that. He spent a lot of time there, as we see Dave play thin to block off more of the board. That looks like a really nice way to score well with all those consonants, and could play a little more defense while he's at it. But yeah, that time expenditure for Ben early on, he may be feeling a little bit more pressured to play quickly here. And boy, I'm not sure now. I really don't know how Ben's going to keep scoring on this board.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, like, right, if he plays, say, Cage or something last turn, I mean, he's keeping ECK with that, and he draws, EHP or whatever.
Yeah, Chape or something.
Holy cats! He's got all sorts of stuff he can do, and now he's just boxed himself in.
Yeah, the crazy thing about if Ben had played Cage, forming Cab and Allods, it would have put that E right in that triple lane where you could play a 5-letter word down. In fact, though, Dave's rack was extremely poor to hit that spot. He had all those consonants. There was almost nothing that Dave would have been able to do short of burning his blank to block that spot effectively. He probably would have had to play something weak that got in the way of the spot without scoring very much. So anyway, all this to say, it's not that Ben made some kind of massive blunder there, but it is so frequently the case in Scrabble that these little nuances between plays are the difference in the game. So, there's definitely a huge healthy dose of luck that goes into the game of Scrabble, but being on the right side of those nuanced decisions on a consistent basis will get you really far.
Yeah. Well, when we were talking yesterday, Will, about how we tend to call people named David by their last name, another very solid Scrabble player who we also tend to call by his last name.
Yes. Hello to David Eldar. Nice to see you today. Hope you're having a good day. Former world champion who, that's definitely something interesting. Like in the early going in our attempts to grow Scrabble on Twitch, I feel like something that it stands out for us compared to like chess broadcasts that I'm seeing is like when I'm streaming Scrabble, I can reliably expect like a lot of people who are, either as good as I am or obviously better than I am to be stopping by the chat. And I just feel like that's not an issue that chess streamers have that much of like, Magnus Carlsen coming into the chat and just hanging out with you or something.
Yeah.
I hope it's not that intimidating. If you're watching along and saying, oh, well, I'm not a Scrabble champion, what could I have to contribute? Please don't feel self-conscious. We really, really want to be accommodating to players of all levels that are watching along.
Yeah, and if you convince Hikaru to rate us after his stream, then I'll buy you a beer.
Well, I don't know if Hikaru knows me, but we have made some.
That's to the stream in general. I'm not going to buy you a beer.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a specific request to me.
Yes, I would ask, or I would offer to buy you a beer, Will. That's
I see.
Not even trolling you.
Yeah, that would be very nice. To get a raid of whatever 15,000 people or something
Yeah.
like that. But hey, we can dream. We can shoot for some similar level of growth in our game. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So what are
what's
you
Dave
thinking?
gonna
What
do
are you thinking
here?
here?
Um, Geez. So first of all, let me get Ben's points for A on the board. He's up to 294. Um,
Hey.
so yeah, Dave continues to struggle with not that many vowels. He only had one vowel on his previous turn, and he only has one now. So he is going to play Yelper,
I would
which
assume Yelper is
this,
what I was gonna say. That's the
yep,
only thing I even saw.
yeah, so I mean, the question for Dave is, does he play Yelper and get as many points as he can, or does he sacrifice a lot of points to try to block the E of Ulzi, which is kind of the
No.
scary spot? I mean, I think Yelper is completely fine. The
Yeah.
score is close enough that if you take a really, really small score to block that spot, you could easily get outrun. There's still
Yeah.
the X, there's still, if you're finding a way to score well with the Q somehow, maybe that hurts. I mean,
That's
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one of the things, as someone who loves playing defensive Scrabble, is there's nothing I love more than when someone makes a huge unwarranted sacrifice for no reason to try to block a lane. In the process, sacrificing like 30 points or 40 points across multiple turns to do so. I just love it. And in this case, Dave's tiles were good enough that he's drawn both nines with the IN as well as down to the E.
yeah. That's definitely something that when I see that, I kind of rejoice again. We were actually talking yesterday about the idea of quote unquote rushing to the end of the game.
Yeah.
As being sort of born out of panic, right? Like something
Yeah.
that sounds kind of good, but in practice, it's mostly a panic move. And that kind of is similar to me. Like, blocking that E in Ulzi for like a handful of points, 5 points, 6 points, or something like that. Um, that feels like, as you said, I like it when my opponents do stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
all
Well, this
right.
is this is what we all live for, right? Is Dave Wiegand looking for a good nine, and since we know that it's there.
Oh, wow. Okay, so here the problem though is, yeah, he has an amazing find here at the base of the board. I'm not sure. I think people in chat must have
Yeah, yeah.
been
They
pointing it out.
the chat has seen it. I can confirm, since Dave is my roommate at this tournament, that he says he slept just fine last night. I do not
Great.
think that he took any of said uh, supplement.
Yes, but I think, unfortunately for us, who love nothing more than getting great content on the stream, I think it makes much more sense for Dave to play something for a couple fewer points that blocks the C of Placer, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to. I have the tracking element up, so we can now, if we want, we can see what Dave is looking at. If we, not sure if we're able to cut to that, I have the tracking display on.
Yeah. I could see like Dave putting melatonin down like for the swag. Oh, spoiler alert. I could definitely see him putting it down for the swag and then picking it up and then playing like Mikanate or something.
Yeah, I think honestly, that's something that I would do just because I am insecure enough about my long word knowledge that if I was on stream, I would want all of you guys in the chat to see that I saw this. But Dave is Dr. Bing. He doesn't have that
Yeah.
insecurity. He can just know that, you know what? We all know he probably would find melatonin with a blank.
Oh,
And
he's already
that,
found it.
oh, he did. Oh, did
Oh,
he
no, 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 no. I'm
rearrange?
just saying I'm sure he's already found it.
Okay, got it, got it. I thought we had concrete
Oh
evidence,
no,
like
we
he
have
rearranged his letters or
no, no,
something.
no,
But
no concrete evidence yet, but
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it is incredible how good Dave is with that type of thing, finding 9-letter words with a blank on his rack, and that is not something very many people can say. He really
No.
is among, I don't know, only Nigel? I mean,
Yeah,
is it
probably.
only
I think only
Nigel
only
is
Nigel.
is better than Dave Wiegand? Nigel Richards, who we call him Nigel in our world, just assuming everybody's going to know who that is. But Nigel Richards is kind of the GOAT of Scrabble, greatest of all time. He's not at this tournament, just for the record, but yeah, always a treat to watch him play. But short of Nigel, Dave is truly the best with those longer words. So let's see. Let's see what he's gonna go with here.
I'm expecting Mikanate to come down because I think that's the best for the board.
Yeah, agreeing with that. Something to that E of Olsey does seem sensible. Yeah, I mean, maybe not. I mean, the with this pool, I'm not really sure how many triples there are through the P of Placer. It's probably not that big of a threat, but you also do probably stop a bunch of other bingos, maybe through the L, A, and C of Placer as well.
Right.
So.
Yeah, if your other options are to play through the L or to play through the A, then like, what's the point? You're just going to open more stuff to parallel afterwards.
Right. So, all that being said, if he plays Melita, oh, he sees it. Okay, now we know. Now we have confirmation.
Well, right? He found it.
He literally just had his tiles arranged on his rack of ME blank atone.
And look, and there's Mikanate.
And now so that is
almost like we could predict what he's gonna do.
Yeah, that is as demonstrative as Dave will ever be. He's arranged his tiles just to let us know, or just because maybe he only now just saw it. Who knows? But he clearly sees his choices here between melatonin and Mikanate, maybe nematode, whatever. It's not a big deal. Between those 80-point plays to the E, will he play melatonin just for the lulz, or no?
Yeah, should have gotten a poll going here, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I can't. I don't think I can do polls until we get to affiliate status on here.
Yeah. So unsurprisingly, Dave spells out melatonin and plays Mikanate.
Yeah, which I think.
Sorry for spoiling it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that is the safe play. I think. That's just the prudent play maybe, but of course we would have loved to see Dave play the swag play here, the baller play of melatonin to the IN. So that's okay. This is not a mistake. No. What is this? It wants me to block a word. Yeah. So all right. So nice play by Dave. Obviously, now just having. So hold on. Let me get what Ben is looking at, I guess, from the tracking, although it's very, very close to the end of the game. So most of those tiles are on Dave's rack, but not all. So let's just make it look correct. So Ben with the Q and the V and other junk on his rack, this is basically, there's very, very little that Ben can do to salvage this game. If he fishes his Q with chin at the bottom of the board, he could play Cat through the A of Placer. The problem with that is it empties the bag and gives him only 6 tiles. So he is almost forced to play off that Q at the bottom of the board and pray that he gets a bingo somewhere. I just don't even see what that bingo would be. Also, Dave will block it because the bag will be empty and Dave will have perfect knowledge of Ben's rack. So looks like a win for Dave Wiegand here to start off the day. No melatonin needed.
Yeah. I think that they're both awake. And I mean, easily the best played game we've had on stream thus far. And, we're going to have to come back and say, well, Gak was probably the worst play of the game. Okay. Can't feel too unhappy about that, right?
Yeah, and shout out to like Dengue too as being not technically correct.
Right.
Instead, Dave should have played Zoogony from ZOO on the board. These are very high level quote unquote mistakes. If you're making those as your biggest mistakes, you're going to be a really good Scrabble player. So
yeah. So an odd play from Ben in the sense of like he's going to get hit with IN most of the time. But
Yeah,
I don't know,
interesting.
maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting 36 points for this, so even though you're getting hit much harder in response, maybe you make out close to as well. I don't know. Yeah. So I agree. I probably would have passed that up, just seeing that there's a really good chance I get hit for 50 points on the bottom. So yeah, bag empty now. Players' racks are pretty well set.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Oh,
So I would
hit the
expect
wrong
to see
thing.
IN at some point, either this turn, maybe next turn. Yeah, play Ibex now. Nice.
Oh, good idea. Oh man, that was fast too. Like to see from Dave's perspective that he could play Ibex now and follow up with a play to the queue that's literally impossible to block. Ben can play his S or his T underneath the I, but that will still yield a Chi play in the lower corner. There's literally nothing Ben can do
You
to
can play
stop
cutie.
that. Yeah, which
I see cues.
are those? Do you think those words are in the future of our lexicon, or are people going to go bonkers if
No, I think
QT is added?
no, QT and ICQ, that's like 90s
Yeah,
slang. I
true.
doubt it. I mean, we did get MySpace in like 2014, so what do I know? Um, yeah. So here's, as we're seeing, Dave just played a very nice. Oh, thank you, Dan. Um,
So kind. We're not even on
yeah,
screen.
yeah. Uh, so we were talking yesterday about, Dave being one of the top end game solvers in the world. So I guess I would throw it out there to any of the international players for, Will and I haven't played abroad as much. Who is the best end game solver other than Nigel, obviously.
Yeah, that's a
The
good
obvious Adam
question.
came to mind, but I don't know. Is there someone who's like notoriously a good end game solver outside of the obvious Adam and Nigel, which we discussed yesterday,
Yeah,
and Dave?
Adam is amazing. Dave is amazing. Nigel is stands above all. No, he literally Nigel Richards, when he doesn't solve an end game correctly, it's cause for like alarm or like noteworthiness. Whereas all the rest of us are like, okay, I didn't get
Oh,
that
it's a
one.
Puneet sighting.
Oh, there he is.
Shout out to Puneet for being awesome.
So Dave does cash his chi play, and then Ben is going to go out and finish the game off with his highest scoring outplay. Final score of the game, 389 for Ben Schoenbrun, 483 for Dave Wiegand.